There's mayhem in the markets at the moment. Bulls and bears are fighting it out online, and the bears seem to have the upper hand. But do they really? What are they basing their case on? What is it that they see that I am missing? Okay. And the only things I can think of is there's this fear that we haven't had an alt season, that we've all been rugged and crypto is a big scam. And these sorts of things come out in most market cycles. Although this one is a bit special because we've got so many bullish catalysts, and yet the markets are not doing what we want them to do. But the markets don't do what you want them to do. They do what they want to do, and they will do it when they want to do it. And that can be controlled by the market makers, general liquidity, and other factors. So the bears are looking at the daily charts and looking at the daily structure of the charts breaking down. And they're seeing that as bearish signals and the top is in. Well, on this channel, we zoom out. We look at the weekly charts and EMAs, and we look at both, not only just technicals, we look at fundamentals, economics, and cyclical things taking place, as well as sentiment and the overall view of the markets. So if that sounds good to you and you want to learn more and see how we're still in a bull market, come and join me for today's show. I think you're going to like it. So welcome back to Prodigal Son Crypto and happy Halloween. Today's the 31st of October. And today we are also celebrating 17 years since Satoshi Nakamoto published the Bitcoin white paper. And let's take a moment to think about all the ups and downs that Bitcoin has had in those times. And I'm not just talking about the 3 or 4 cycles that we know of. I'm talking about all those intra-week moves where everyone got fearful, thought about panic selling. People did panic sell, many people did. Many people thought they sold the top and it went higher. And let this just be a moment to recognize that over those 17 years, the amount of emotions that investors and traders have gone through. Okay, and we're going to try and look at that today in some of the charts we're looking at the moment to see where we are technically, fundamentally, economically, and cyclically. And that's what we do in on this channel. We don't just focus on daily candles. No, 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 no. We are in this to ride the cycle, and as long as the trend is your friend, stick with it until it ends. We're going to start off with Bitcoin, okay? On the weekly chart, as we can see, it's been higher lows and higher highs, and we've reached this point where we're sort of just chopping around, okay? And we're above a lot of EMAs. We're well above the 50 week EMA. We're above the 34-week EMA, and we'll go in a little bit closer, shall we? But first, let me just indicate that, market cycle tops, okay? Look at these high RSI readings, okay? That was down in 2017. This was 2021. And yes, we did have a higher reading there, but that was more similar to here, which was a 2019 mid-cycle top. This was our mid-cycle top. We've continued to go higher, but with lower RSI readings. Okay. Now, some people will say bearish divergence. Yeah, you can call that. You could have called it there, and we've gone down. Okay. Can we go lower? Of course, you could technically, but we're going to look at what's going on right now. So we've got Bitcoin riding above this 34-week EMA, which is the top of the purple cloud. Okay. We're well above the 50-week EMA, okay? Now, if I was to say, where do we draw a line in the sand and say, things are not looking good here, maybe we should reassess our positions, I'm going to be brutally honest. If I was to see some weekly closes below the 50-week EMA, okay, and below 100K, which was a fighting ground for so long, yeah, I would see that as if the bulls can't step in to defend Bitcoin at 100K. Now, we could go below 100K. We could go to 98, 97K. But I would want to see weekly closes. I wouldn't want to see many weekly closes under there. If you start to see that, and some people would say, yeah, but you're well off the top there. Your altcoin positions are absolutely wrecked by that point. Yes, they are. But there's always time to defend some of your capital. But as long as we're above the 50-week, I'm bullish, okay? Now, if we zoom in closer and put this on hollow candles, we can see the 5 and 13 week have just crossed bearish there, okay? Now, we're not closing the 5 and 13 below the 21 week EMA yet either. So that's still a good sign. It doesn't mean it can't happen, because look, it happened here, yeah? And it happened here where they got all entangled, all those EMAs, but at the same time, it was above the 50 week, above the 50 week, if you see what I'm saying there, okay? There was your mid-cycle top. There was the RSI, quite a high reading there. It didn't even get higher. These are lower highs, okay? Okay, but then also, are we starting to get a higher low, you know? So that could be the case as well. Also, you've got these diagonal trend lines, okay? And Bitcoin likes to hover around them. If I zoom out further, you can see all of these diagonal trends, okay? And you can see how it will stick around somewhere, break out, stick around somewhere, break down, stick around, break up, you know, and it tends to do this all around. And some of these lines go back, you know, as far as, you know, 2017, okay? And these diagonal lines become touch points again. Now, what happened recently, okay? Now, we broke up, we got up to here in December 2024, this line, okay? And broke down below it, come down to this line, and then broke above. And then we've been riding above it. Now we're breaking below it, but we're not getting significant period of closes below it. And we're sort of squeezing up here with this 34-week EMA. It wouldn't take a lot to get just back above there, but at the same time, it wouldn't take a lot to come down there. And even if you lost the 50-week EMA, I'd also be looking at this support around here. So say if it was to come down to it now, you're talking around 97k, okay? And that doesn't mean it couldn't wick below it, okay? But like I say, wouldn't want to see many weekly closes below there. And apart from that, you know, like I say, you just zoom out and it's up in an uptrend, okay? And we're going to look at a number of charts today and just show you this. And then we're going to go through some of the other things like the fundamentals and the economics. Okay, so moving on to Ethereum, okay? Ethereum also still in an uptrend. EMA's quite bullish. This could literally get a bounce here on the 21-week EMA. Not forgetting, we are actually also in this uptrend here. And if you really wanted to, you could say we could actually technically come down to this trend line here. Okay, so we are still bullish on Ethereum. And look, when you think about it, how close we are to all-time highs. I mean, let's go from where today's price is roughly. You know, a 27% move in Ethereum is not, 28% is not that unexpected in a bull market, you know. It could really shock the bears and break up higher. Yeah, Ethereum is not looking too bad at all, in my opinion. Okay, this is still looking very promising, you know. And like I say, we've got these diagonal lines. If it starts to reach the next diagonal line from somewhere where it is now, you're talking 7,000. Okay, if you reach this top line up here, say getting into you know, Q1, Q2, 2026, up there around 20k, where a lot of the big predictors are estimating. Okay. And like I say, this is the importance of zooming out, really, because let's look at Solana now, and you can see, like, it's a clear uptrend, yeah, of higher. It's just keep having such a great structure there. And does it mean it can break down from here, wick below it like it did here, you know? But at the moment, when we zoom in on Solana, okay, we've got the 50-week being held. We've got this trend line being held. The EMA's 5 and 13 are starting to roll over, but that can happen in volatile assets. So, you know, and it's not far from pushing back up again to all-time highs. We're in that territory now, and, you know, many people have also indicated this is a huge cup and handle pattern. Yeah, it's a beautiful cup and handle pattern. Okay, and these things take a long time to play out. And I would also like to indicate that, you know, we're starting to get to near the end of this triangle pattern, okay, where the two trends converge. And, you know, these things don't tend to get right to the end. You know, is it going to break down? Yes, that is an option that could happen, and it could also break up and go into price discovery. And that's a point I'd like to make as well, is that two of the most leading assets in crypto And you must see all the fundamental news that's going around Solana and Ethereum. And they've not gone into price discovery yet. Had Bitcoin go into price discovery for some time now. We've got the stock market in price discovery. But yet, Solana, Ethereum, not yet? I don't think so. And then we've got SUI. And I'm going to go through some of the biggest crypto assets right now. We're going to look at some of the ones with the biggest communities, some of them with the strongest narratives, etc., to just see where we are with them and to just show that we are still intact. Now, SUI had a great run, okay, from 2023, okay, and all the way up to $5 or more, and it looks like a sorry state right now. Okay, this was the darling of the cycle that people were saying, the new hot, shiny, and new narrative. Okay, and it's been doing really well fundamentally, but technically, since around when we're saying about July, since the summer, it's been bleeding out hard, in fact, and this is what I don't like to see. I don't like to see all these EMAs rolling over. However, I will give SUI the benefit of the doubt. This is a brand new asset for this cycle, and it's more volatile. It's more volatile than Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and it's going to do more volatile things, okay? But it is in this wedge pattern, okay? And it is still higher lows, although it's not as, but it is lower highs as well. It's not as bullish as what you'd want to see. But, I think as long as it's holding above this range here, that was resistance here. These are major resistance levels, yeah? It was resistance here, then it broke out. Found it as support, come down, found this as support a bit higher, and now slightly higher as well, but at the same time, we have had a lower low, but this is a wick, and this was all due to that liquidation cascade. So I'm not, it bounced back. At the end of the day, it bounced back all the way back up to 280. It went down as low as $1.50 on some exchanges. But now it's holding above 230. Where can I see this going in the near term? I could see it coming down maybe as low as this to close, around 217. Yeah, maybe even this line here, 213. Okay, but as long as that's happening, I'm still bullish on SUI. Still one of my biggest positions. I still think it's got one of the strongest narratives in crypto, one of the strongest teams, massive community. Fundamentals are excellent, one of the fastest blockchains. They're making massive partnerships. I mean, that team, they came from Facebook and Meta, they're going to make huge partnerships and continue to do so. Next, we've got Hyperliquid. And if you haven't heard of Hyperliquid, then where have you been hiding? But yeah, look at this on the weekly, okay? It's still bullish. It's holding the 34-week EMA. It's, it's bounced back up above the 21-week EMA. It's in this, it's just formed one of its first higher lows as well. This could absolutely still moon. I mean, where could it go? It could go, let's have a look at the fib extensions. Okay, so lows to highs to lows. Okay, next targets could be, $76, $102, $104, $131. I mean, this could really absolutely go crazy above, $180, $160 for a brand new crypto asset. It's got a really strong narrative as one of the leading perp exchanges and decentralized ones at that. So yeah, still looking strong. So we're seeing more uptrends here, aren't we? Next, we have BNB, and for one of the most liquid exchanges and parties in the crypto space, it's not a surprise really to see their asset outperforming the rest of the market massively. And if you just look at this is kind of what you really wanted to see in all the other assets, and it might be what we're seeing Solana doing. Okay, you've got like a big cup and handle, okay, but yet Binance is further ahead, okay, and I believe that could be the case, okay. And when you see like a coin riding those EMAs like that is really what you want to see in the bull market. You want to see all these EMAs fanning out And, you know, you can say, oh, that looks really toppy. These things can go absolutely nuts. I mean, I know it was in an earlier cycle, but I mean, look at this here, you know, this is what some of these things can do. And, you know, I was there in 2021. I saw this taking place. You can get these vertical candles for weeks, okay? And that's not to be unexpected in crypto at all, even for some of the larger assets. Could this go to 2,000-3,000 per coin? Yeah, why not? Why not? But look, Binance Coin still extremely healthy. And then we look at XRP. And what's XRP doing? Well, it's kind of in a pennant formation, okay? And it's still riding above its 50-week EMA, okay? Some of the 5 and 13s are starting to cross over now. It is below, well, it's fighting to stay above the 34-week. It's got this resistance level here around 260 that it needs to break above. And then also when it starts to break out of this pattern, either way it could go, but I'm still bullish and I'm seeing it as an uptrend. So stay with the trend, as I say. If it break out from there, it will soon be challenging its all-time highs, price discovery. This is all possible over the next couple of months or even leading into Q1 of next year. And we are seeing a mixture of strength and weakness in some of these coins here. And this is Cardano. Looking a bit more weaker, just like Sui really. EMA's rolling over below the 50-week, but holding the 200-week, okay? And it's held it before, it held it there, it held it there. It broke below it, but they reclaim it. So, like I say, don't go long or short based on EMAs, but just use them as a trend indicator, okay? Holding EMAs is a good sign, okay? And it can break below it, it can wick below it, you know, but you want to see it reclaim. This is what I'm trying to say about with Bitcoin as well. When I say about losing the 50-week EMA, okay, you can get things like this, right? You know, the weekly, and this is why you need to watch weekly charts, not daily charts. If you're swing trading on a daily, perfect. If you're actually just trying to invest in crypto, stay with the market trend, please use the weekly. You'll be far less emotional, okay? And this is what I'm talking about. See, it broke below there. Everyone would have got super bearish, even on these wicks, okay? But even here, closing the week below it, okay, everyone would have got super bearish or did get super bearish. And then the following week, we managed to reclaim, go up and go higher, okay? And this could happen again here with the 200, okay? But at the moment, holding it, I'd say there's a lot of fear in the market. The sentiment is on the floor, in the gutter, whatever way you want to say it. And if you go on to X, go in the comments on YouTube videos, so many people are bearish. And I just think there's a lot of people who don't truly, and this is not trying to offend anyone, they don't really understand putting the cycle, the length of the cycle and the economics and the technicals, fundamentals, and just putting it all together to like make a puzzle, you know, putting all the pieces together. I think people try to focus on just one thing too much, and maybe it's the daily charts or 4-hour charts. Because when you zoom out, it, even like an asset like ADA, which has really been underperforming for weeks and months now, okay, and it's still back down at, you know, where is it, 50, 60 cents again. You know, it's if you're a bag holder, particularly, also another thing that draws people's emotions out is where they bought. Because if you was accumulating ADA down here at like 20 cents, okay, you know, you're pretty bullish still. Okay. If you was buying ADA up here at like 120, 130 recently, you know, and you're holding it down now you're 50% down or more. That's why people would get bearish. You've also got the people that bought up here at $3 in 2021, you know, and they rode it all the way down. They thought, yeah, we're back, we're so back, and then it's just been messing them around. So you can see how that gets to people, can't you? But don't be one of them people. You know, make sure you're buying low. Buy fear. At the moment, we're seeing fear in the market. Maybe now's a good time to buy. Not financial advice, obviously. Looking at Chainlink, okay? Chainlink is it's struggling with the 50-week EMA, to be honest. It's battling with it right as we speak. Okay, it's losing it right now, but as we can see, we had a close on it a couple of weeks ago, closed below. It's holding the cloud really. Okay, if let's zoom in on it, it's really holding into the cloud. Okay, and it's still higher lows though. It's still a good setup. We zoom out and we look at this like channel that it was in from the bear market. Okay, and then we look and you've got these lower highs as well, and it's just going to get pushed up into here probably until it breaks out. And you know, that time, like I say, I don't expect it to meet the end of the triangle at all. That would take you out into 27. You know, um it's well above the 200 week, sorry. And yeah, I think this could get a bounce on this level here around 17. What is it, $17, maybe even as low as high $16. Now, and look, if you look at how many times this has fought this as a resistance and support, resistance as support, you know, broke down from it, tried to reclaim it, rejected, you know, reclaimed it again, you know, trying to drop below it, but holding it as support. It was all support here as well in 2021. I think if we move away from here now for Chainlink, I don't think it will ever come back down into this zone ever again. There's so many bullish catalysts for Chainlink. The institutional bid is there, and there's lots of integrations and partnerships with Chainlink. When this finally breaks out, this is going to absolutely fly. Okay, it could go into the hundreds of dollars. Okay, you know, the last all-time high was around $50. I think this time could get into hundreds of dollars. And does it take us into next year? You know, this is why I am starting to believe that we are going to see a cycle into 2026, because we are running out of time for these things to do the performance that they kind of deserve, really, if you look at all the fundamental news in the US regarding crypto. And that's now expanding across the world as well. Digital assets are getting so popular, stable coins, you know, and we're going to talk about that more later in the show. Now we're looking at Avalanche, AVAX, okay? And this is the last altcoin chart I'm going to look at before we go into other matters. And as you can see, this is a higher low structure, okay? We have had lower highs, yes, but again, we are getting pushed into one of these sort of triangle pennant formations. And it's, yeah, then this goes all the way back to 2020, okay, this line, okay, and it is literally testing it right now. You know, if you'd bought this line before, fantastic buy, good buy, good buy, probably good places to accumulate, if you know what I mean. Because when this absolutely runs, you know, these will be seen as great buying opportunities. Again, the EMA's not what I want to see, really, with all of them rolling over like this. It's not even, you know, it's below all of its EMAs. It just seems like some of these altcoins, they're just still in a bear market. They're in that accumulation phase of a bear market. This is the downturn phase of a bear market, and you just get this accumulation, you know, breaking higher, breaking lower. And I feel that this could be a great buy for AVAX right now, not financial advice. And just so you know, it's not just me being bullish. There are some other people being bullish, although I do feel like we're overrun by the bears at the moment online. And Raoul Powell makes a bit of a jest at this, because Raoul Powell is just a really experienced investor. You know, he's been around market cycles, I think, for the past 20, 30 years. You know, he was in TradFi. I think he worked at Goldman and Sachs, you know, and now he's heavily into crypto, has been since 2017, and he's saying, OMG, we're all going to die. I had one chance to unfuck my future. It's over. Meanwhile, the Sui textbook wedge. Yes, I use wedge for all flags, pennants, triangles, and all that jazz, dear troll. And why he says that is because you get a lot of technical analysis traders, you know, they just don't hold any regard for pennants, triangles, etc. But they are good to just show structure. I wouldn't trade off of them so much, because they can just break either way. You could put a lot of conviction in a trade in them, but they are good to show market structure, particularly when you zoom out on higher time frames. The lower time frames, the more you get these patterns, the more unreliable they're going to be. Yeah, because you're going to get a higher ratio of them. But if you're in a market cycle, okay, you will only get a number of these patterns, and you can back the pattern up with what else is going on. You're not just going technically about this is the pattern, this is what I think is going to happen. You can go, this is the pattern, this is fundamentally going on, this is economically going on, and cyclically, we're right about the right time for this to do this, you know? So you can add confluence to it, okay? And he brought more charts up here, okay? So this is the Solana one, yeah? Okay, we've just looked at some of these, okay? ETH, okay? These could all be breaking up into further bull market. Bitcoin looking absolutely fine, yeah? Total 3, including stable coins, just looks, yeah, like I say, big cup and handle, breakout, you know, all of this could happen, okay? So that's Raoul Pal. I'm on the same page as him. I'm also on the same page as him when it comes to a lot of the economics he's talking about as well. 15.8 billion worth of BTC and ETH options expire today. Okay, so it might be a reason for a lot of the volatility going on in the markets. A lot of longs and shorts getting liquidated, options trades expiring. You know, it's getting to that end of the month where we're going to see the monthly close, and you know, there's a lot of trading and a lot of you know, choppiness going on, and it's important not to get caught up in this, because if you're a long-term investor and you believe in the cryptos that you're investing in, then all this trade chop, you need to zoom out, cut the noise, and just focus on the longer term. And you know, we're back in fear again. Yeah, we were in extreme fear, I believe, last week. We went back to neutral last week. I think it was about 2 weeks ago was in extreme fear. Last week was like neutral. And then we also had fear, and you know, we're back in fear again. I was expecting this to get to extreme fear actually, due to like just the sentiment that's going on in the markets right now. But yeah, maybe we'll get that a bit later on, see what the price action's doing today, and see what happens there. But I always say to people, so at the moment, a lot of people being really bearish, okay, when it's fear. But what are you meant to do? The rules are buy fear, sell greed, okay? And it doesn't seem like a lot of people on X are doing that at the moment. But I'm pretty sure the institutions will be loading up OTC with their spot buys, and the market makers as well. The market makers will buy the emotional retail sells, okay? And they will sell to the emotional retail FOMO buys. And that's the way it all works in the markets. Now, for alt season, okay, ignore this. This is just like, we had this the other day when we looked at, I think it was on the more zoomed in one. I think it spiked up to 100. This is malfunctioning a bit lately, so just focus on the main trend of it. Now, a lot of people look at this, okay, and say, we had our altcoin season, you know, these were altcoin seasons and everything. And sometimes they indicate they were altcoin seasons, little parts of them, but I prefer to look at this on the year, okay, see what coins have outperformed over a year, okay. This one, you can really see where the altcoin seasons were, okay. Look, I mean, that's it. It only starts in 2018 and then it works its way down. But 2017, there was an altcoin season, okay? And then in 2020, you had the end of DeFi. This was DeFi summer, okay? And then you had up till May 2021. I mean, that from January. I know this is absolutely accurate because, you know, I was in the markets here and here, okay? And here, this was the summer dip. This was the November, like December top, okay? And since then, alts have just really underperformed, you know? And then we got into, what was it, late 2024. This was when Trump got elected around here, okay, in this time. And then we saw a massive rally, okay? But it weren't a full-on altcoin season. Some alts were performing, things like Sui were new out and doing really well, and Solana did really well during that time, and meme season was good. But other than that, and then it's bled out, and I just ignore this because alts haven't capitulated. This will probably be gone by tomorrow. But it just shows you, you know, we haven't really had the proper alt season yet, you know, and I believe it will come. and I'll tell you why in a moment. So looking at Bitcoin dominance, and this is why, okay, this is why alt season hasn't happened yet. Because Bitcoin dominance hasn't fully, it broke down. It needs to break down further for us to get that alt season. Okay. Now, we watched it break down from this line here. That was a long line going back to, where it went back to, all the way back to 2023. Okay. And it broke down from there. It broke down below the 50-week EMA. And since then, it's been below the 50-week EMA. It's below the 21-week EMA. Okay, now it's 5 and 13 do seem like they're turning up, and it does seem like it's trying to get above 60%. Now, I believe this is possible that if Bitcoin runs hard and leaves the altcoins behind, then, this could break a little higher. I don't think it's going back up to the highs. I think that's not possible at the moment. I think, maybe it could get back up to near 60%. Maybe 61s, somewhere there, but it's really struggling, and it's been struggling with this line as well. This is a newer line. Okay, I'm going to show you where that line goes back to. So that's that's the one that goes back to 2023. The other line that we was watching before that went all the way back to 2022. So, like I say, it's finding it as resistance. You can see it is. You can see all the wicks going above it. Okay, but it's failing to actually break out, and I just see this as a sign of weakness, to be honest, with dominance. And I do actually think, and I've seen it now, where when the markets went down, Bitcoin dominance has gone up a bit, but it's really struggling to do anything significant. And it's trying to tell me, I think, that when we do get the bounce in the crypto markets, I think the alts are going to outperform. I think that's when we're going to start to see the alt season. So even though Bitcoin's going up, you'll start to see Solana breaking out, Ethereum breaking out, and this thing's just going to break down. And when it starts getting down, so to like this 56% where the 200-week EMA is, that might be a good place to take some profits. But at the same time, where do I think this could go? I mean, we have got kind of higher lows here, okay, and if you was to get, say, down here into like 2026, okay, say if things did go on into the new year, you're talking around somewhere between 40%. And now maybe some of this could hold as support resistance, so around 44, 45%. I'd just suggest taking profits all the way down on Bitcoin dominance. That's a way to take profits on your altcoins, okay? Because you don't know how the market cycle is going to play out. You don't know how long it's going to go on for. But a downfall in market Bitcoin dominance is one of the main things that will be leading me to take profits. Okay, that's what we're waiting for. Okay, and I believe that's definitely going to happen because Bitcoin dominance does not end a cycle at the highs. It ends at the lows. There was 2021, there was 2017, 2018. Bitcoin dominance does not end cycles up here. No, that doesn't happen, and I don't believe it's going to happen again. What with all the narratives and fundamentals going on for altcoins right now, ETFs, etc. We're going to get into all that. No, don't think so. And just to remind everyone that Bitcoin dominance is Ethereum Bitcoin pair inverse. Got the top, got the breakdown, trying to retest and but it's holding below. And just as I said that I think Bitcoin dominance will get rejected from the 50-week EMA, I believe Ethereum Bitcoin is going to get a bounce from the 50-week EMA. It's almost the exact inverse, and I think that is definitely a bottom for Ethereum Bitcoin, and this is a correction, and it's going to bounce and get away next time the market moves up. And one of the points that's been overhanging the crypto markets, because it hasn't really been overhanging the stock market, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, but it's a tariff FUD, okay? It's been going on all year, and the worst part of it really was the China tariff war. And it does look like Trump might be starting to resolve the China tariff war now, which is a really good sign. Obviously, we had rate cuts this week, which was great. But now we're looking at December, okay? And there's a 69% chance on Polymarket that we're going to get a 25 basis point cut. This has dropped since the FOMC meeting where Powell flooded our bags a little bit by saying, you know, it's not a given that they're definitely going to cut in December. But he's going to say that because he doesn't want the market, he doesn't want everything getting out of control. He doesn't want inflation going through the roof. So he's keeping everything cool by saying, we've given a rate cut now. Maybe we won't do December. Maybe we will. So he's leaving the markets in a bit of doubt there. But I'd say the chances are still higher that there will be more rate cuts. And that's given here in the data on Polymarket. That's also here on the CME Group's Fed Watch tool with a 66.8% chance and a 33% chance of a pause. Okay, so still believe that there will be rate cuts coming. And on the calendar on Forex Factory, coming up on Monday, we've got the ISM manufacturing PMI, which will be a really important piece of data to see whether the markets are in expansion. Above 50 is ideally where we want to be. Or are we still in contraction? We don't want to see a lower reading than 49.1. We'd like to see at least the expectation, which hasn't come out yet, or which I've heard it might be somewhere around 49.9, something like that. Now, if we get above expectation and we get above 50 or 50 or above, I think anywhere heading up from 49.1 is a positive thing, and that is bullish. If it's above 50, extremely bullish. And then we've got the JOLTS job openings and non-farm payrolls and unemployment claims, all of this data. But really, the government shutdown needs to end. And is it going to end by next week? It's been the longest running government shutdown there's been so far. That's another thing that's, holding a bit of some clouds over the markets. We need to see the data. We need to see the clarity of what's going on and, to determine whether things should be bullish or bearish, etc. And just to show you the ISM, look, it's been one of the longest times spent below 50 in history, okay? And, as I always like to show this and remind people, and just especially for new people who don't know the ISM, okay, this was a March 2021 top, okay? This was a COVID bottom. This was a December 2017 top. And it goes back and you can see a lot of the highs and lows. This was a financial crisis, etc. So the lows, particularly, usually good time to buy risk assets, okay? Now, I know the Mag 7's been outperforming. I know Bitcoin's been outperforming. But if you look at the Russell 2000, which we're going to look at later in the video, if you look at the lower cap cryptos, they've all been underperforming. They want to see expansion in the markets before big liquidity will come into risk assets. And that's how it all works. This is the business cycle. And here's a chart from the Real Vision team, okay? And this is the leading indicators, okay? So you've got the GMI Financial Conditions Index 9-month lead. This is something that the GMI and Real Vision team have put together that will show that there's 9 months from now, leading well into 2026, there is expansion. And, the ISM is the white line, okay? So you can see, which we just looked at, the ISM riding down low, below 50, okay? Well, if this follows like it has led before, okay, then we've got the GMI financial conditions leading up. Then in 6-month lead, we've got the GMI total liquidity index rising up, okay? And, the ISM should follow them up because it did before and before, okay? And Tom Lee's Bitmine's still loading up on ETH. They've just bought 166 million worth of ETH. So, while people are being fearful, they've been buying this week. And so Coinbase, okay? So Coinbase increased its Bitcoin holdings by 2,772 Bitcoin in Q3. CEO Brian Armstrong declares Coinbase is long Bitcoin. And it ain't just Bitcoin they're buying. They've been buying all sorts of assets ready to sell onto the markets as the markets start to get more FOMO and a bit more bullish. US spot ETF flows, okay? So Bitcoin saw minus 488 million. Ethereum saw minus 184 million. Solana saw minus... Solana saw a gain of 37 million. Obviously, it's got the new ETF out, okay? Now, but one thing I do say, and I always say this about the ETFs, The ETFs are like the ETF buyers are like the most emotional retail traders, whether they're institutions buying it or large retail investors like family offices, funds, etc. They're highly emotional. They sell the lows and they buy the highs. And the ETFs have been selling the lows recently. We can see that as well in this chart here. Look, if you can see like some of these lows here, this was back in April. A lot of selling going on there, selling on the way down. There's been a lot of selling recently at these lows. You know, as it started to recover, it got some buyers coming in, but then we rolled over, it's selling again. It's really just very emotional. We can see that here, some of these lows, they were selling, and then as it goes up, you see the buyers increasing. Here we go, where it was going up, the buyers were increasing. So let this be known that the ETFs sell the lows and buy the highs. Okay. Grayscale. Grayscale have launched the Solana ETF. Okay, so this is really bullish news. They're going to be launching a lot of ETFs, I believe. We're going to go through some of the ETFs now. Okay, so Grayscale have launched the Solana ETF. As we know, they had the Bitcoin ETF, one of the first ones to do it. Let's see what's in their bags. Okay, so when we look at their investment products, okay, on Grayscale, okay, these are some of the trusts they've got. They've got the Solana Trust, okay, ETF. They've got the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Okay, they have got this CoinDesk Crypto 5 ETF. Let's look what's in that, shall we? Okay, this is going to be a signal to see what they're potentially going to be doing ETFs for. So in their holdings, they've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Cardano. I think this indicates to me what they will be doing ETFs for next. Is it XRP? Is it Cardano? Possibly one of those. We go back to their investment products again, okay? Now we look at their publicly traded funds. They've got a Chainlink Trust, they've got a Litecoin Trust, and they've got a decentralized DeFi fund. Let's take a look at what's in that. So in their decentralized DeFi fund, they have got Uniswap, Aave, Ondo, Aerodrome Finance, Lido, and Curve. So could any of those get an ETF? I've already looked into this a little bit, and I know there is a potential for an Aave ETF and an Ondo ETF. I haven't looked into the rest yet, but I think there's also been talk of a Uniswap ETF as well. This is all possible. I mean, maybe they're not the next ETFs you're going to hear of, but it is all very much potential. And then we look at their private funds. What else have they got? They've got Bitenza, Sui, Avalanche, XRP, Dogecoin. So as we can see, Grayscale are one of the key players in launching institutional grade products and ETFs or crypto onto the traditional markets. And, as we can see, these are some of the coins that I think would be good bets for the future. Not financial advice, of course, again. VanEck doing something similar. This is a huge investment company, and their smart contract platforms, fund, this VanEck Smart Contract Leaders Fund, and what's in it? They've got Ethereum, Cardano, Polkadot, Solana, Near, Tron, Avalanche, Algorand, Tezos, Phantom, Sui, Aptos. I know some of you keen altcoin holders will be thinking, this could do with a little bit of an update. Perhaps it could. Some of these coins, but they've been around a long time. So, even though their performance in the market might not have been very good in the past year or so, some of them did fantastically well in 2021. And if we're saying that we haven't seen the expansion into risk assets yet for this cycle, then who's to say that, these coins don't have narratives and don't have strong momentum into those times. Canary Capital files updated S1 for its XRP spot ETF, removing the delaying amendment to enable auto-effective registration with launch date set for November 13th. So XRP ETF probably coming to you November 13th. Okay, and there's going to be more. Okay, so what else? Canary have just launched the Litecoin ETF. They've launched the H-bar ETF. I can't really see too much else of what they're up to as well. They do have a digital fund, but it doesn't really declare what's in it. They've got the Crow Trust as well. That's Kronos. So that's crypto.com as well. So potentially a crypto.com ETF potentially coming as well. Then we've got Bitwise CIO says Solana offers two ways to win: growth in stablecoins, tokenization, and Solana taking more share. He's bullish on the ETH ETF, but he likes Solana's speed and usability. You know, Bitwise have launched one of probably the biggest Solana ETF at the moment. I saw that they was all down at the New York Stock Exchange celebrating that. Yeah, and they're doing this is a staking ETF. Yeah, so if you want to look at that, it's BSOL. If you look at the chart, absolutely nuked from launch. But apparently, people are accumulating Solana, and some of these things they can nuke on the launch, and then then you see the discounted offering. You can get in if you've got conviction, and you can hold it as it starts to bring in returns. Okay, but Bitwise again, they have got some assets under management, okay, and their fund holdings, okay, obviously they've got Bitcoin, and this is broken down in size, okay, and their weight here. So they've got 74% in Bitcoin, 15% in Ethereum, 5% in XRP, 3.4% in Solana, 0.7% in Cardano, 0.4% in Chainlink, and then you see they've got some Sui, Avalanche, Litecoin, Polkadot. As you see across some of these funds, they seem to be interested in these proven track record altcoins, which are mainly layer ones, huge ecosystem plays, ones that are getting adoption from institutions, huge partnerships. These are the types of coins that will get ETFs. And I could say Litecoin, what is it doing there really? Because its only real use case is payments and like a Bitcoin silver, they used to say, but it's nothing of the sort now. So I think some of these are like old coins just there. And Polkadot's never really taken off. I used to be invested in Polkadot, never really taken off. But things like you've got good use case here. XRP, well, although it's got a huge following, it does do huge partnerships and stuff like that. I'm yet to still see a proven use case for it. Solana's just took the lead with the Western Union deal, which we'll cover in a bit. Cardano's a great chain, but yet to see true adoption. Chainlink's seeing massive adoption and partnerships. Sui, like super fast, great UX, and Avalanche is taking off with many narratives and partnerships. There are reasons for some of these actually getting ETFs. And here we go. Here's a big partnership. Okay, so Ondo Finance has partnered with Chainlink. Okay, so for tokenized stocks and ETFs. Now, if you go onto the Ondo website, okay, let's go and have a look at the Launch Global Markets. You can see that the stock market is already traded on the blockchain. This isn't the future. This is now. Okay. So it's not like, oh, we're going to do this that we used to hear in crypto all the time. No, this is happening. Okay. So you can connect your wallet and you can trade stocks and shares and ETFs all on the blockchain using your stable coins. This is what Larry Fink and of BlackRock and Jamie Dimon, they're all talking about this. And Ondo is going to be huge amongst TradFi. Okay, they've built the framework; it's there. You can go and trade stocks now on the blockchain. Just in, MasterCard to acquire crypto startup Zero Hash for nearly 2 billion. Fortune reports. So MasterCard making a big move there, 2 billion to buy a crypto startup. I think this is what we're going to start to see. We'll start to see TradFi institutions acquiring crypto startups. This is what we're going to see a lot of over the coming months. So, I mean, with this sort of fundamentally going on, it does not seem like, and with the chart action and price action behaving the way it is, it doesn't feel like a top. Okay, this is the type of stuff that builds up and builds up and builds up, and should take you to a real big top in the market where altcoins are popping off. There's a new narrative every day. There's a new story every day to pump the cryptos. You see the cryptos doing double-digit percentiles. If you've ever been around in a euphoric stage of a bull run, that's what it's like. And I believe we've still got all that to come, which is really exciting. And as I just mentioned, okay, so Western Union obviously have partnered with Solana, which has rubbed dirt in the noses of XRP holders, because XRP always thought that they was going to be the global payments network. And Western Union is huge for global payments, international payments, and they're just going to build their stablecoin on Solana now. And this is set to launch in first half of 2026. So now you're seeing all these narratives that could be taking us into 2026. Okay. Visa announces, so we've had MasterCard, we've had Western Union, now we're talking about Visa. Visa announces 4, all coming at the same time, funny that. Visa announces 4 blockchain stablecoin expansion as Q4 spending quadruples. Okay, so I'm going to go down to this bit here where it says, okay, Circle's USDC and Eurocoin currently operate alongside PayPal USD and Global Dollar across Visa's infrastructure on Ethereum, Solana, Stellar, and Avalanche blockchains. Monthly volume has surpassed a 2.5 billion annualized run rate. You know, this is huge. I mean, you can go and read all this yourself. These are big stories, you know. Revolut rolls out one-to-one USD to stablecoin swaps with zero fees or spreads for its 65 million users across USDC and USDT on 6 blockchains. Okay, could this become the standard? I think it will. We're going to start to see banks, big banks, now that Visa, MasterCard, they're all involved. I mean, if you've got a debit card with your bank in a Western country, or anywhere really internationally, chances are it's MasterCard, Visa on your card. Okay, so if you can do those payments, you know, all these banks are all going to be doing it. This is the on ramps now. This is bullish, massively bullish. Just in, US senators are pushing a bipartisan crypto market structure bill despite the ongoing government shutdown. So this is so important for the US government that despite the shutdown, they're still pushing forward. People are still working on this, trying to make this happen. And I found this really interesting, right? Okay, so this is the post from Cointelegraph saying cutthroat battle for crypto ETNs erupts in the UK as issuers slash fees to record lows after the retail ban is lifted. Okay, so fees getting slashed to lows, okay, after they've lifted a crypto ban in the UK. I didn't really notice the crypto ban myself. I was using Swissborg to onboard, sending my money to Binance. I was also using Revolut Bank to buy stuff. You know, I've not seen you know, much of a ban on crypto really, other than since 2021 wasn't really allowed to send money direct to Binance or out of Binance. But other than that, but that's all I noticed really. Okay, but what I wanted to show on this diagram really, and you can go and see this for yourself. This is the FCA, so the Financial Conduct Association, their crypto roadmap. Okay, what I like to look at here is where we are now. Okay, so Q4 2025, Q1 2026. So trading platforms, intermediation, lending, and staking. Okay, this is what they're going to be discussing and trying to pass through. Okay, remaining material for potential source book. Okay, whatever that is. Okay, so by 2026, the final rules, all policy statements published. Okay, and then gateway for readiness, gateway open, regime go live. So basically, throughout 2026, they're looking for the FCA to be completely ready, and you know, the whole map played out for crypto. So it just tells you that there is still a lot going on with the UK government, and you know, setting the rails for crypto. The banks want to see this. The banks want to know what the FCA rules are, and the floodgates will open. Where it says the gateway readiness and the gateway opens, the floodgates will open to the masses. Okay, so this could be somewhere in 2026, which would be, if things look for how they do in the charts, we're going into 2026. This would be the gateway for mass new retail, and unfortunately, they're going to come in right at the top. So far, we've covered a lot of with technicals. We've covered a lot about fundamentals and economics. Okay, now just looking at some cyclical things here. Okay, this is the Russell 2000, all the lower cap stocks in the US. Okay, the top 2000 stocks, not including the Nasdaq and the S&P. And as we know, the Nasdaq and S&P have been on a tear. Okay, and the Russell 2000 usually goes on a tear after the election. So the blue lines are the elections, okay? And, you know, it took a dip after the elections, and now it's just starting to rise up now. Now is it going to go on a tear? It's just broken all-time highs, okay? And if lower caps are going to go on a tear, then perhaps it's time for, and this will happen hopefully with the ISM going up, then we'll start to see all the other cryptos start to head up as well, not just your Bitcoin and Ethereum, you know. And yeah, this just highlights the cyclicality of the presidential election, okay, and just showing that the presidential election cycle is in full swing. This is breaking out. It's going to go into new all-time highs and price discovery, in my opinion, as we get the higher ISM print next week. And if you follow Jason Pizzino, I've got to give him credit for this. This is his chart. Okay, the real estate cycle, we are in the winner's curse phase of it. Okay, now bear in mind, this chart is not the stock market, it is house prices, and it is not an indication of where the actual chart is and how it's behaving. It's just to show what stage of the cycle we are in, okay? And we are reaching the top for the housing market, and I think it may already be in, and the stock market continues after that. As you can see, 2006, 2007 was the stock market top. 25, well, I think 2026 will be the stock market top and crypto top this time round. And if you want to see this on a chart, yeah, we can show this here on the HGX, okay? Here we had a top in the HGX in 2005, okay? When it got the lower high here in 2006, that was the housing market starting to roll over. But when did the stock market top? Well, the stock market topped around 2007, okay? So it continued a lot longer beyond that. And there's historical data to show this happened in previous 18.6-year real estate cycles, okay? I think if you go back to 1980, 1981, that sort of time, and I think you had the stock market crashed around that time as well. But I haven't got that on this chart. But if you look what's going on now, okay, so in 2024, October 2024, we had the housing market top. Seems like we've got a lower high in now in 2025. Now, if the stock market continued on into October 2007 after topping in July 2005, you know, that could easily take us into, you know, 2026. You know, this is like, so if it's 2005 to say 2007, then, you know, to 2024, 2026 sounds about right, you know. So this is the real estate cycle and its impact on the stock market, as it has done historically, and will probably impact the crypto market as it behaves as a risk asset as well. So that's all intact as well. Now, stable coins, as we hear, a lot of big things going on with stable coins. They've been minting so much many stable coins, okay? Circle was recently minted an additional 750 million in USDC, okay? We were seeing USDT doing billions in previous videos. We were covering that. So Tether and Circle have collectively minted 8.5 billion in stablecoins since the 11th of October market crash. Here's the evidence. They are minting like there's no, it's like nobody's business. It's unreal the amount of stablecoins they're minting, and I believe that's what's holding up the stablecoin dominance charts. But yet I do see some weakness with these lower highs and these rejections in these wicks. Okay, I know there's higher lows here, and this has got just much chance of breaking up as it has of breaking down. Okay, it is above the EMAs as well. Technically, it looks like a coin trying to recover and come out of a bear market, okay? But if we go on to USDT dominance, it looks a bit weaker, okay? It looks like the bear market is continuing down. And usually you see a break of the lows, okay, before, like, the capitulation moment, the anger moment, okay, before heading up. And I believe that could take us out into Q1 or Q2 of next year. This is what we've been looking for. We want to get into the party zone to be taking profits. The after party zones where you really want to be exiting your bags, okay? Because if it gets down as low as it did here, like in 2021, you know, that's a sign to start taking heavy profits. Now, it seems like unlikely we're going to get down there at the moment, but anything's possible. And if this is sort of that middle stage of a bear market for USDT dominance, okay, I'd expect a breakdown of lower prices, okay? It's finding the difference between USDT dominance and USDC and USDT dominance is that it's riding below the 200 week, okay? And it's finding it. Look, as we can see, these wicks, they're like rejections. It's also got the downtrend, hopefully getting rejected again. By this time it comes down to this low, it should break it, hopefully. So that's what we're hoping for, okay? And that would ring true cyclically as well. And the thing with stable coins is the thing that's holding up the dominance, as I said, is they're just minting so much of it. Yeah, that's how the market cap increases to increase the dominance, because they're just, it's not like anyone's buying it up. They're actually just minting more and more supply, making their market cap bigger. You know, this is what it is. And where we're sitting right now for TVL in the total crypto market is pretty strong still. Yeah, it's still very much an uptrend there of higher lows. Okay. If we take that over there, we can see it's just reaching a bit of a pause and a correction. And if you look at the total crypto, this is total two, excluding stable coins. Okay, it's very much in this uptrend as well, having this little correction. It almost mirrors the TVL a little bit, because obviously Ethereum, one of the biggest parts of Total 2, and Ethereum, the biggest part of DeFi TVL. Okay, and they're just following a similar pattern. And like I say, they're riding above the EMAs here beautifully. Okay, huge cup and handle pattern, just waiting for that time to break out. In this more recent uptrend as well, this looks like it could go. I mean, this is what people are panicking about. Just don't get it. Just really don't get it. I think this is a bullish stage where we could be literally in a moment, very similar to like here, you know, where we just start to break out, you know. It even looks more bullish than here, to be honest. That's the truth of it. And then we look at my total free chart, excluding Bitcoin and ETH, the top 10 cryptos, okay? And it's still very much in this optimism stage. You know, belief, it becomes when you overtake the previous all-time high, which was the euphoric stage. That's when you get into belief again. And there is a lot of disbelief at the moment. The optimism is here. I believe optimism is a balance between you know, belief and disbelief. Okay, you're going to have a mixture of bulls and bears, find it out. You know, is this a cycle top? Is it, you know, are we going to continue? You watch when we get back out into here and the belief phase, all the bears will be saying, we're back on, we're so back. Okay, then the thrill will come, the new retail will come. Oh my God, this is getting really exciting. Then they will go up. Some of the new retail will come and their bags will go up. And they will be so euphoric. Everyone's saying this crypto stuff's great. The whole world's in agreement. And everyone needs to buy every new low cap altcoin there is, and meme coins and everything. That'll be the euphoric stage. That should be where you're getting out. Okay. And if we look at total free, okay, again, it's riding above the 34-week EMA. It's actually almost holding above this 21-week EMA. It's just testing it. It's playing around with it. 5 and 13 are getting a squeeze. And yeah, this could be a point where we start to see the move up again and recover from this correction that we've been having. Okay, it could come down as low as the 50. It could come down to this line again. Okay, where it's tested multiple times. Okay, and that is still bullish in my eyes. But when we look at others, this is where we can see the pain for a lot of the lower cap altcoin holders. People's portfolios getting wrecked because, you know, a lot of degens in this space like wanted more risk than, you know, your top 10 cryptos. They wanted to see significant gains. They want your 20, 30, 100x coins. And by doing that, you take on the risk. You know, if you want the reward, you've got to be prepared for the risk. Some of them coins might not make it, and some of them will recover with hundreds and thousands of percent gains when this cycle picks up again. Okay. And if you look at others, okay, it's come right down onto this trend line again, and it's literally hanging on by a thread. Okay, it's wicked down below 250 billion a number of times. Okay, I'm going to actually lower that line a little bit so it sits on the closes. Okay, so close below 250 billion on the weekly might be a bearish sign. It'd also be breaking down below this this line here. But could it come down to the 200 week EMA again? Well, it's done it before. It could do it again before we even see this take off. But with some of the other charts looking like they might start to head up again soon, this could actually literally just bounce here, and this could have been a really good time to buy altcoins. Again, not financial advice. I always have to say that. We don't give financial advice on this channel. Literally just me watching the charts, showing you my thoughts, and seeing if you can learn something from this. And I hope you have taken something from this video. I hope you've learned with me to look at all the pieces of the puzzle, put them together to give you a true picture of what's going on. And that is with both technicals, fundamentals, economics, and cyclical things that happen during these cycles, whether it's the business cycle, the presidential election cycle, or whether it's the 18.6-year real estate cycle. Doesn't that mean more than people in the comments of Twitter or YouTube talking about cycle over? We never had alt season. We're all wrecked. It's done. It's over. Goodbye. You know, they're doing this. They're looking at low time frame charts, whether it's the 4 hour, the daily, even the daily, too low time frame. You've got to zoom out, go onto the weekly, look at all the news, look at all the fundamentals, and then actually just go with the trend. Yeah, the trend is your friend until it ends. It's not over yet. See you soon. Have a happy Halloween.